Being an educator is one heck of a lonely journey, but every step holds a story, an experience that shapes how we teach, learn, and grow. Welcome to the Educator Experience. I'm your host, Sally Carter, and together we'll explore the moments that define us as educators. Through authentic conversations and shared experiences, we're building a community that connects, reflects, and inspires, all while breaking down barriers in education, one story at a time. You are not alone. Let's grow together. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Educator Experience podcast. Today, we're exploring how an old dog can learn new tricks. In other words, using gamification in our teaching practices. I'm your host, Sally Carter, and joining me today is Steve Newton, who goes by Newt, which is completely throwing me off because when we met a few weeks ago, you introduced yourself as Steve. And I'm just one of those people whose brain attracts or attaches to that first name. So I'm getting used to it. So I'll probably say Newt throughout our conversation today. But Newt is an entrepreneur and consultant with his business InnoEmergence Solutions, where he helps emergency managers, NGOs, industries, and governments in their transformation of emergency management. From the old saying, this is how we currently do it today, to this is where we need to be tomorrow. And before we get into things today, Newt, your bio is just insane on LinkedIn. I have to throw this out there. You've worked all over the world, including various space agencies and United Nations offices, which is so cool. I'm really appreciative of your time today to be a part of this interesting conversation around gamification. So thank you. And I know that we've only met briefly, but what I do know about you is that you're all about innovation. And I'm curious what prompted you to consider gamification for one of your recent big projects.
Excellent. Thanks for that intro, Sally. So first of all, I'd just like to say that looks like an impressive resume that I got, but really what it's about is the pursuit of fun and the pursuit of happiness. So I just basically, my entire career, I've just done stuff that I've enjoyed doing, and I've paid less attention to what other people thought I needed to be doing, and no regrets whatsoever. So if
that's awesome,
your
pursuit
listeners
of fun,
get nothing else out of this today, the one big takeaway is follow what makes you happy.
I love that. Thank you. I was rereading one of your emails and it was talking about gamification platform that you're building.
Yeah. I'm one of those 180 mind shift people on it. I used to think it was rotting kids' minds when they were playing video games, but then I read some military research a number of years back, probably almost 20 years back, about how they were recruiting for kids with gaming skills because of the evolving technologies. And what got my attention was the critical decision making required to win at these games, right? And I just thought, oh, now I'm curious. And so it's evolved out of some of that. So that was kind of a tipping point or a pivotal point, if you will, for me. I can give your listeners a bit of context around what it is I do. For the 8 years or something like that, I'm kind of losing count as I get older, but I've been in some form of public safety service. So wildfire operations, emergency management operations. I've got one of my old volunteer fire department shirts on. And now, the last 7 years, I've been a consultant for a number of the types of organizations that you described. And so more strategic planning, operational planning as well, and what have you. So in and amongst all of that fun stuff that I've always been doing, one of my passions has been technology. So I have always tried to attach myself to projects where there was new and evolving technologies that could improve on the wildfire or the public safety practices. And I have to admit, I got pretty lucky. I landed some pretty awesome ones that took me to different parts of the world. Again, the pursuit of fun, right? That's what it was about.
Speaking of a fun place, I know you were just in Fort Nelson too, working with them.
Uppercase F on fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. What a great community. I worked with the Fort Nelson First Nation and the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, and boy, what a tight group up there.
Great people there.
A few years younger, I could consider moving up there, but anyway, that's a different conversation for a different type of podcast, I guess. So anyway, bringing this back, so I've always followed the technology stuff, And the other thing that's really, really been a big part of my pursuit of happiness has been personal development. So I've been always doing personal development related stuff, as simple as reading one of many, many interesting books I have on my bookshelf there, all the free online stuff. I'm just uh, constantly online reading, learning, sense making, and all this sort of stuff. So through that whole process, I've come to learn that I'm a pretty strong systems thinker, so I can connect a lot of dots at once, which is a blessing and a curse at once. Again, a different podcast conversation for sure. But a number of years ago, I also took some strategic foresight training down in at the University of Houston. And for me, that was about trying to get my mind wrapped around connecting all of those dots that I'm so good at connecting and translating that into trends. So what's coming at us, and that's where my innovative kind of wiring comes in. I'm always trying to figure out better ways to do things, and I've got some fairly creative ability that I've translated into the workplace. So all of that stuff is just forming up into what you might want to call almost the perfect storm for Steve Newton to make him even happier in what he does. So at some point a while back, I landed on gamification. And my original introduction to it was a number of years ago. I was reading some literature around the military and the use of gamification and some of their technologies. And this was early days in some of the UAV or the drone programs and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
they were recruiting people with specific gaming skill sets. Now, prior to reading that paper, I was one of those guys that just thought gaming was a waste of time. I just thought people sat in their basements and they just rotted their brains on all these little Nintendos and PS1s or whatever else they were playing, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't bring myself to do that. I'd rather read a good book or watch a documentary or follow a good blog or a video or something like that. But this paper for me was kind of a turning point. It was kind of a big aha moment, if you will. I thought, well, I know that the militaries, particularly the US military, are really, really, really smart about a lot of things. And if they're recruiting people with gaming skills, then there's got to be something to it. So I started digging into it and reading some more and paying attention. And I started looking at the real simple, basic games that were online. And I started to notice how all these communities were forming up around this gamification. And then over time, particularly as when I got into the consulting game, where quite frankly I had a lot more freedom to do things than I did in any government environment,
Mm-hmm.
I started to look at a bunch of the emerging technologies, and I was following everything. Everything from quantum. Uh, I was one of the first ones. I bought my whole team some virtual reality headsets. Actually, there's a couple of them sitting
Cool.
right over here. So I just basically said, "Here, you guys take these home, introduce your family to these. Let's play with these and figure out how we can make this stuff work." Right. So I was a big VR fan fairly early on. And frankly, I've always been an early adapter anyway. I'm kind of down at the beginning end of that sort of bell curve. So anyway, started looking into the VR stuff, and then this whole piece around mixed reality and augmented reality started coming in. I took a course in Unity programming. So Unity is one of the preeminent gaming platforms for online right now in the world, and as it turns out, is also an enabling platform for Web 3.0. So I kind of put all those bits and pieces together, and then one day I had a little bit of an aha moment when I was looking to get at that time the iPhone 14, which was the newest. It's got lidar, a little lidar scanner. So lidar is basically a laser-based technology that, where I come from in emergency management, has always been used from aircraft to map three-dimensional digital elevation models. So I got myself I think it was called Polycam. It was one of the first versions of Polycam, and I can still remember myself on a family vacation in Hawaii with this brand new app and this brand new phone, and I'm trying to scan the building or the place that we rented, and it really, at the end of the day, it came out like a really, really bad Woodstock kind of experience. Right? It was just it was there, but it wasn't quite there in terms of what I thought the imagery should be. But what I understood was the point cloud was there. The data points were all there. There's millions and millions of data points that had captured every furniture, all the walls, the ceiling, the windows, the big kitchen island in the middle, the bags of chips on the counter, all of that stuff was there, right? So I had another little aha moment, and I said, wouldn't it be interesting to be able to go into somebody's emergency operations center with my iPhone and scan everything on a 3D app, and then have it create an environment, a 3D environment that could be used in tools like Unity. So the technology was there. It was that simple. The apps weren't quite there, but they have evolved considerably since then.
Mm-hmm.
So, in keeping this gamification piece in mind, I was also looking at some of the online tools. Boy, there's one that slips my mind now, but basically, it allowed me to go in, and I could set up my own online university in the different rooms, and I could attach things to the wall, and you could click on it, and up would open a PDF or a video or a URL to, I don't know, some weather forecast site or whatever, right? So I tried a tool out, and I built all that, so I knew what was then capable, and this was probably 6 or 8 years ago.
Wow.
Um, but I was still always thinking there's going to be a better way because technology is moving pretty quick, right? So one day, I just called up the local emergency program coordinator who I knew, and I said, I got an idea. Can I come into your emergency operations center and scan it with my iPhone and see if I can use it to build an environment, a 3D environment? And we're going to try and build out a bit of a training model for that, or platform for that. So he let me go in there. And of course, I'm smart enough to know that technology isn't 100% reliable. So I also shot a video of everything on the walls, and I even measured the floor dimensions and where the doors were. And then I went to an outsourcing site
Mm-hmm.
where I hired a temporary worker with skills to take this data that I'd all compiled, and he built a very, very photorealistic 3D environment for that, which was based in Unity, but could also be imported into some other tools. So the other thing that we figured out was, well, initially I had this real sort of neon Euro trash kind of trendy look in the way that they had built my avatar. But even that technology's evolved so that it sort of looks like me now and how I dress when I go in. But
Oh, you're
anyway,
actually in it. That's
I
awesome.
was I was in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the simple version was I could go into that emergency operations center, which was an exact replica of the one here in town. And the first thing I was asked is, do you want to put on a position vest? So in our world, there's something called the incident command system, and associated with that are certain colors for different functions. So operations has one color, planning has another color, logistics another color, and so forth. So you could go in and you could pick your position and your vest, and you could just put it on, and automatically you're wearing it, and you could walk around in the room. You could sit down at the workstation. So I set up the workstations with a computer on there, and this is all stuff I could do. This I didn't have to hire anybody to do all this additional stuff. It's that easy, right? And I'm not a programmer by any stretch. But anyway, we basically set it up, and at the same time, again, this is a systems thinking curse and a blessing. I was building out for one of my clients a digital emergency plan. So when we think digital, we think PDFs and Word documents and stuff like that. Well, for me, I was thinking interactive flow charts that linked back to PDFs and Word documents, and how to explain our videos and stuff like that. So we did a bunch of the processes and built them out that way. And then when I built this site, you could go in your little vested avatar, sit down, click on the screen, and up would pop basically whatever I wanted to put there. So I
Mm-hmm.
started to put that into, or I started to put that digital emergency plan into that environment, so that at the very least people could go in and they could pick a process. So today I want to learn how to declare a state of local emergency. Okay, simple one. So you go in and you click on that process. All the relevant supporting information that you needed would be there. Short explainer videos, like there was an interactive checklist, and each line item in
Mm-hmm.
the checklist had a little short, 15 to 45-second video that said, this is what this means and this is what you need to do. That kind of stuff, to use it as a bit of a training environment. So that was sort of the first kind of piece of the gamification side of it that I saw. Recently, not surprising, I've jumped on the AI bandwagon, and I got in on ChatGPT when it was early, and I've really learned how to build good, structured, engineered prompts, and that's a bit of an art and a science in its own, let me tell you. But going through a bunch of that process, I started asking the ChatGPT, here's kind of where I want to be. What are the steps and what are the tools that I need to get there, right? And it was doing a pretty thorough job. But one day I just kind of happened on this little piece that sort of led me to believe that, I think all the pieces are there. I think I can take an AI tool, I can give it the parameters around an exercise that I want. It can draw on the knowledge base that I've pointed it to. That can be either online sources or internal documents or any combination thereof. And it can automatically populate this 3D environment. So I'm not going to tell you a whole lot more about that until we've got something to show, but I can tell you that is doable right now.
That is wild.
Yeah.
It's so neat. Just the idea of gamification in general. And I did some research and looked up a recent study by the University of Colorado where it found that students who learned through gamification
Yeah.
showed an 11% increase in factual knowledge and a 9% increase in retention rate compared to those who didn't. But I would actually venture to suggest that it would be higher, even higher, because you're using all parts of learning and the brain while involved in a game and working through it. It's just fascinating the things that are coming out with technology.
Yeah, so I've read some similar stuff as well, and I would agree with you that the retention rate, particularly
Right.
in adult learners, is quite a bit higher. And now
Mm-hmm.
here's the cool thing about some of these technologies. Um, the way the brain makes sense is through combinations of existing connections of synapses, so it's got the memories and all that sort of good stuff in there. And then something new that it sees that it compares against that, is it a threat or not? Yes, no. If no, then what does this mean? If yes, what do I do? Kind of stuff. So a bunch of the VR technology now is starting to evolve where you can have different scents. So, for example, there's VR um, goggles that you can get that would introduce a scent of burning gasoline if there was a highway tanker overspilled and you had a simulation of this tanker truck on fire that is hauling gasoline. So, training in a VR environment for firefighters responding to a hazardous material spill with burning gasoline gives them that extra sense. So it just
Yeah.
enhances all of their learning and their retention and their sense making even more.
You know what it comes to my mind, and you might laugh at this, but did you ever read those choose your own adventure books? This was decades ago. I feel like I'm mentally making a comparison to those type of books that I loved reading when I was a kid to where we're at now with gamification and adult learning. It's incredible what we can do. In some of the post-secondary institutions that I teach with, they include gamification as part of certain courses
Oh,
where it allows students the opportunity, for example, to be part of a marketing team developing a new product. What would you do if? And it gives them different options. And then it's like a competition kind of thing, but it's all based on what their team decides. And the result is that the students are actively engaged and they're
yeah.
having fun, right? And as you said, fun is so important, particularly as a learner when you're already stressed.
In my world, I follow all the AI evolution as well, right, and what's going on. And one of the sectors that has really embraced it has been the online marketing world, and
Mhm.
that's uber competitive. So they're always looking for a way to distinguish themselves from anything else. It used to be, pain point solution, buy, right? Simple stuff. Well, there's some really, really good indications right now that the gamification side of that has helped enhance um, sales rates for a bunch of different online products. The gamification stuff is starting to come in a big way, and why I like following that particular sector is because they are always at the leading edge. Because if they're not, they don't survive.
Mm.
If I put on my strategic foresight hat, this was it was coming up years ago that this was going to be where it was all headed. People way smarter than me were starting. starting to see this already, and people are building. There's billions of dollars going into the technologies right now that are enabling Web 3.0. There's no doubt in my mind that AI is going to replace school teachers, and I think the kids will learn. It'll be a little bit more self-directed, but they'll learn at the pace that they need to learn at, because certainly what we're seeing now, at least this is my own view, is that kids, they process a lot more information in any given minute in a day than we ever did when I was their age, right? And they've got that ability, and their brains are evolving to make sense of all of this sort of stuff, right? So the AI is going to feed those ones that have got insatiable learning appetites, and they will become very expert in one or many things, depending on where their interests are, right? So,
It's like a choose. I don't know why I keep thinking of this book. It's like a choose your own adventure, but you can go as far as you want. There aren't limitations with AI as a teacher, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've probably been a fly on the wall in some of our conversations, because one of my core team members, she uses that analogy almost daily in every conversation. It's choose your own adventure.
Made me think of it. Yeah. Those books were awesome back in the day. But
Well, and that's basically, that is the analogy to describe what Web 3.0 is going to be.
You just take in whatever direction that you want to.
It's all about customizing the experience.
I appreciate that. And Newt, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insight today. Well, this old dog has definitely learned some new tricks, so thank you. But thank you so much for really sharing with us the idea of gamification and the effect it can have on us as adult learners and the pros, right? How advantageous it can be. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, Educator Experiences Community, where we connect, collaborate, and support each other on our educator journeys. See y'all next week. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Educator Experience. We hope you're walking away feeling connected, inspired, and just a little bit more supported on your journey. Ready to go a little bit deeper? Join the Educator Experiences community and check out our courses and workshops specifically designed to support new educators as they navigate the ups, downs, and everything in between. You'll find it all at educatorexperiences.com. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a fellow educator, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Together, we're building a vibrant community rooted in support and connection. See y'all next Monday.